Hi everyone, welcome to the Laval Virtual World. The Games and Learning Alliance conference is about to begin. Follow us in the conference room.
Oh, follow us into the conference.
We just came out of conference room.
Hey Abhilash,
What?
walking.
Hey there.
Hello Abhilash. Yes, you.
Au début au campus et aller dans une zone privée? Ça te va? Tu te retéléportes? Go to campus?
Salut!
Salut, ça va?
Ça va? Ouais, et toi?
Ouais, je suis en train de faire des prises de vue, mais c'est horrible. Je dois gérer le personnage, les touches de manipulation et en même temps l'enregistrement vidéo.
Ah,
Mon ordinateur va s'envoler. Mais bon, je vais faire ce que je peux.
ça marche. Moi, il faut que j'envoie un mail à ceux qui m'aident pour leur dire où est-ce qu'ils doivent rester pour le jeu de piste.
Et, j'ai croisé Jean-Loup déjà.
Jean-Loup, ici?
Ouais, ouais,
Ok,
ouais, il est là.
d'accord. Ouais, il n'est pas dans cette pièce-ci, mais ah, quoique peut-être.
Tiens,
Ouais, pas ici. Il doit être en train de se balader. Si ça tombe, il est déjà en train de chercher des réponses pour le jeu de piste.
Do you mind calling her?
Yeah, I have to check if I have her phone. Et toi,
Ouais.
j'ai testé la nouvelle fonctionnalité aller à la personne directement, bah ça marche. Nickel.
Ouais, ils ont réglé le
Ok.
problème de l'autre pièce, mais ça dépend de
Non,
quand on a
voilà,
ouvert une
je m'assure que
session.
c'est tout. Je suis à côté de vous, c'est mignon.
Quelqu'un qui arrive maintenant se retrouve bien popé ici. Contre moi, si j'y vais à pied, je me retrouve toujours dans l'autre pièce.
Ouais, Mathieu.
On est assis, le son se coupe complètement.
Oui, oui, Isa a dit que le son est spatialisé et elle a fait exprès. Elle va le remettre en flat quand elle sera prête. Elle m'a dit, je suis allé la voir, elle a dit qu'elle a fait exprès pour que les gens puissent se parler un petit peu quand même en attendant. Donc elle est au courant, pas de souci.
I don't know what to say.
Did we wait a little bit more? I thought she might have changed her or missed the time because it's an hour earlier. But actually she knows.
Yeah, she does. She actually made a mistake when she came for the setup meeting. So she knows.
I'll try again.
Okay,
and
thanks.
come back to you.
Okay, well, I think we can start. Sébastien, I'll let you deal with the settings. So normally we put the system to flat voice, so you should be able to hear me all the way to the back. If you do hear me, please do a hello like this with F1. Yes, excellent, thank you. Now, I'm not sure all of you can see my webcam on the left. This depends on your connection. So I hope it works for most of you. So my webcam is on the right screen, well, on the left screen for you. Normally you should see my presentation on the middle screen. Oh, Anna is here. Perfect. We were looking for you. Anna is our keynote speaker. Hello, Anna. Thank you for being here. We were kind of nervous. I'm glad you're here now. Perfect. Well, we have everything set up to start the conference opening. So my name is Isa Marfizi-Schotman. I'm the general chair of this edition of the GaLA conference, and let's start the conference opening. So welcome to the 9th edition of the Games and Learning Alliance Conference. As you all know, this is an international scientific conference dedicated to serious games. The goal is to bring together researchers, developers, practitioners, such as teachers and schools. There's someone who has an open mic, and it must be someone who, because I can hear my echo. So if you do have an open microphone, please cut it off. It's on the public, it's on the left. Thank you. So if you're not speaking, please turn off your microphone. Excellent, that's much better. Nope, I can still hear it. Okay, whatever. So the conference, the Games and Learning Alliance conference, is organized every year by the Serious Games Society, which is a nonprofit cultural association. Its goal is to build an international scientific community around serious games, around the topic. In addition to organizing the yearly conference, it also publishes the International Journal of Serious Games, organizes webinars, engages in social networking, and also holds a blog with the latest innovations in serious games. This year, the local organization team comes from the LUM, which is the Computer Science Laboratory of Le Mans University. And this morning, we are very privileged and happy to welcome Laurent Bourquin, who is the Research Vice President of Le Mans University. So please cheer for Laurent Bourquin. You can press F4 to say bravo. I'm going to ask Laurent to come.
Bravo!
Thank you, thank you. How do I say? Come here, Laurent. Thank you, perfect. So Laurent's going to say a few words about Le Mans University, and then Sébastien Georges, who is the director of LUM, will present a few slides on our lab. Go ahead, Laurent, we're listening to you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Laurent Bourquin, and yes, I'm the Vice President of Le Mans University in charge of research. I regret you could not come to Laval in person to enjoy the charms of our beautiful city. I hope you will be able to do so later when the situation permits. But there are many of you here today, which I'm delighted about. We owe this success to Laval Virtual World, which is hosting us for 2 days. But we also, and above all, owe it to all the colleagues who have worked hard to prepare this conference, Isa, and the whole lab. Volume is one of the labs of our university, located in Laval and Le Mans. You know the technology-enhanced learning team, the largest French team specialized in this field. But our university is thus composed of 15 labs, about 1,000 colleagues and 13,000 students. Its identity is twofold. A university rooted in its territory, which offers high-quality training to its fellow citizens, especially in Laval, but also a research of very high scientific level. Several labs have a high international profile. This Games and Learning Alliance conference, organized in Mayenne and open to the world, is therefore emblematic of a strategy that we have built and developed throughout our history. So I'm very, very happy to inaugurate it, to welcome you, and to wish you a very good work. Thank you very much.
Please press F4. Thank you very much, Laurent. I think Sébastien is now going to come present a few slides about the LUM.
Thank you, Isa. Thank you, Laurent. Hello, everyone. My name is Sébastien Georges. I'm full professor of computer science at Le Mans University. I teach at the Laval Institute of Technology, and as a member of the organization team, I'm very happy to welcome you to the GaLA conference. I'm the head of LUM, a laboratory in computer science, and I will present it very quickly. LUM is composed of 50 people, half working in a team doing research in language and speech technologies like automatic transcription, and the other team works in the field of technology enhanced learning. I don't know, Isa, if you can display the next slide, please.
Sure.
So the TED team is composed of 15 permanent researchers and 10 PhD students or postdoctoral fellows. This actually makes it the largest research team in France on technology enhanced learning. The team is both located in Laval and in Le Mans. The next slide, please.
Yes.
Thanks. So the team works on 3 main topics. The first one is about the design and the adaptation of pedagogical situations. And for example, we develop authoring tools for teachers. The second topic concerns learning analytics from traces and the design of dashboards with indicators. And the third topic deals with advanced human-computer interaction to support learning. And one kind of TEL system we are especially interested in is serious game. We are also exploring the educational value of virtual or augmented reality. So if you want to know more about UMLab, you can watch a short video on GaLA website to see several of our projects, and you can also visit the UM website. So I see a lot of people in the room. Thank you for being here, and I hope you will enjoy the program for these 2 days. Have a nice conference and see you later.
Thank you so much, Sébastien. We are now 100 in the conference hall, so this is great. You can applaud yourselves too if you want. Okay, thank you very much. So yes, if you are interested in our projects, please go see on our website. We have French pages and English pages. Well, it's translated in French and in English. So this year we welcome you in the Laval virtual world. This is a special type of venue. It was designed last year by Virbela for the Laval virtual exhibit. This is the largest exhibit in Europe about virtual reality, and last year it welcomed 11,000 visitors. So this is quite a huge exhibit. All year round, it also hosts events related to virtual reality, like our conference. So for this edition, for this online edition, we really wanted to recreate an environment that was as good as real. So this is why we chose the Laval virtual world and not a cheaper alternative like Zoom, for example, or I don't know, any other video conference system. One of the advantages of the Laval virtual world is that you can interact almost normally with other attendees, either by speaking to them. You've tried that already. You can also use the public chat on the bottom left. I see that lots of people are writing in it. So this is where you can put comments or questions during the conference. And you can also use the private chat functionality. Just click on the name of the person that you recognize on the left and send a private chat. That way you can tell jokes between each other. This is what you would have probably done if you had been here for real. An important aspect of the Laval virtual world is also the spaces in between the conference halls. So just roam around the world, bump into people and socialize just as you would have done if you were here. We also have a social event planned for tonight. It's a treasure hunt that will allow you to discover the whole world. We hope to see you at that event tonight. And of course, you have super powers being an avatar. So I don't know if you've tried dancing already. I really like the backflip. I've always wanted to do this in the real life, but never been able to. So please try out the superpowers that you have. And if you're nice, maybe at the end of the conference, I'll show you how to fly. Maybe. We also wanted to take advantage of this online edition to try to make something maybe better than real by really creating a sense of community, a scientific community. This is why we really invested time and energy into our Twitter account. If you have Twitter, you probably noticed the challenges and all the tweets that we've been doing on the account that's at GalaConf 2020. The objective was to engage in interactions before, during, and after the conference, so please don't hesitate to tweet. with the hashtag GaLA Conference 2020. The tweets will be visible at all times on the screen where my face is right now, on the right. So we will be able to see your tweets during the conference here and in other places in the world. We also have the services of a professional community manager for a few days. Her name is Celia. I don't know where she is. She should be somewhere here in the conference room. Anyway, if you see her, please talk to her and please tweet. This would be great. This is kind of an experiment, so I don't know if it's going to work or not. You can tell me what you think of it, and in any case, we were happy to try this experiment out. Now, we also thought that we could take advantage of this complicated situation with the lockdown to try to think of a conference, a scientific conference otherwise. This is why we wanted this conference to be free and online and completely open for attendees, which is the case. And we really believe that this is an opportunity as researchers to show our results to general public. So we were 440 registrations this morning, but obviously we didn't all show up this morning, but we are 104 right now in this conference hall, which is much more than we would have had if we had done a normal conference. Usually the GaLA conference attracts maybe 50, maybe 70 maximum researchers. So the fact that we are so many, oops, sorry, I don't know what happened. Oh no, I have a little problem with my slides. Sorry. The fact that we're so many is really great for us. And you can also see that we have different profiles. We have quite a few academic researchers, of course, students, but also companies, a few teachers, journalists, government. So I welcome everyone to this conference, and we're really happy to have you around. And this should be really interesting. As I said, this conference will be broadcast live on YouTube for those who have problems connecting to the Laval virtual world. It is also much more eco-friendly than a normal conference. I'm not saying that all conferences in the future should be like this. I'm very impatient to be able to travel again, but maybe this experience is something that we can inspire us for the future. So let's talk about the GaLA conference program. We have 2 days that are packed full with research presentations and social events. For those who do not know how a scientific conference works, we received 77 papers, which are research articles of 10 pages long. These research pages, these 77 submissions were actually, it's the same number as last year, which was a record. So that's great. It shows that our community is strong, despite the fact that the times are a bit complicated. This year, 20% of those submissions came from France, 15 from Germany, which is really a big number. Maybe they want to be the next GaLA organizers, nudge. And a record number of submissions from the US and Canada, which is probably due to the online edition.
So it's sending the audio to my Yeti microphone.
Oops, someone's talking. Thank you. So these papers, the 77 articles, were submitted to a blind peer review process. This means that they were read by researchers in the same domain and evaluated. We accepted only 35 of these articles as full papers, and those are the articles that will be presented during the 2 days of the conference. We also accepted 10 papers as short papers, which will be presented during the exhibit tomorrow afternoon. The articles, so the 35 full articles and 10 short articles are compiled into what we called proceedings, which are edited by Springer Nature, and normally you received a link to that this morning in the email. And the authors of the best papers will be invited shortly to submit extended versions to the International Journal of Serious Games. So as I said, we will have lots of scientific talks these 2 days, 35 presentations of the full papers by their authors. We have 17 countries that are represented. The full articles you can find, so if you like the presentations, you can find the full articles in the proceedings, and you can also find the slides of the presentations on the detailed program on the website. This might be handy if you have a problem with the, if you have a technical problem and you can't see some of the slides. This unfortunately happens sometimes, so you can go on the website and download the slides. We also have 2 keynotes, Anna COX from the UK, which will present right after me, and Anne-Gwen Bousset from France, from Brest. So we have 2 days with lots of paper sessions and events. We expect the speakers to be here during the entire conference, so the whole 2 days. If you're just here because you're curious about serious games and or scientific conference, feel free to just come to whatever you want. We're happy to have you. Speaking of which, here are the highlights that I think you do not want to miss during the conference. First of all, we have our 2 keynotes. So Anna COX will present at 10 a.m. right after me. She will talk about games for academic life, so I'm sure this will interest all of our academic fellows. And Anne-Gwen Bousset will present tomorrow morning at 9:30. A talk about immersive games that they've created at the Centre Européen de Réalité Virtuelle, which is at Brest in France. This year we also organized a competition, as every year actually, at the Games and Learning Alliance conference. We had 30 submissions in the academic, student and business category. This year we had a special focus on innovative human-computer interactions. We had lots of very interesting submissions and games. We will announce the winners of this competition during the award ceremony, which will take place tomorrow at 14:45 in the dance hall. You can go see the nominees on the website and on Twitter, and there's also the videos of these really cool games, so I think that might interest you. During the award ceremony, we will also announce the best paper nominee and the best student paper nominee. So these articles were exceptionally good. So this means that the presentations should also be exceptionally good. I wrote down the times on the bottom of the slide so you can see when they present. I think there's 2 today and 2 tomorrow. If there's one moment, if there's just one time when you want to come to the conference, I do think that the best would be to come to the exhibition. It's really something that you do not want to miss. This will take place in the exhibition hall. We have 42 booths that are ready for you with games and virtual reality tools from all over the world, including French companies and labs. So please come and walk around and talk to the researchers and companies who've created those tools. Tonight we've prepared a treasure hunt for you, and I'm sure you're going to like it. It's at 6 p.m. in the dance hall. You don't need to sign up, just show up before 6 p.m. in the dance hall. It will be a collaborative treasure hunt that will allow you to explore the world. Basically, there's been a time glitch and you have 1 hour to save the world. And obviously, since we work on serious games, you didn't think we were going to create a game that wasn't a little bit serious. So while you're saving the world, you will learn about 8 women who made the history of computer science. At the end of the conference, tomorrow at 5 p.m., you are all invited to the Serious Game Society General Assembly. This will be on old-fashioned Zoom. You can access the presentation, you can access the Zoom all the way, the bottom is all the way at the bottom of the program page. This General Assembly is very important to decide on the future of the Serious Game Society, of the conference, and also decide on all the events that will be carried out during the year, such as webinars, workshops, and game jams. So please be there. To finish, I would like to thank the organization team. So press F4 and just continue pressing it until I finished to applaud. Thank you very much. I would like to emphasize the fact that this was really a team effort. I think someone's really clapping. That's good. So this was really a team effort. We're 19 people in the entire staff. I would really like to thank in particular Ludovic, who did a great job with the reviewing process of the articles. I would like to thank Pierre Laforcade, who did a great job for the exhibition, especially because it's just so huge. There's 40 booths, so you will have a nice time, but it was probably quite complicated to set up. Thank you, Janneke, for finding such interesting keynotes. Thank you, Aus, for taking care of the competition. I'm not going to say all the names because we're so many, we would still be here this afternoon. But the local organization chairs and supports were also really fantastic. Thank you, Aisha, who's been updating the website. And thank you to Gail, who created and designed the treasure hunt that you will play tonight. If you need help, the entire organization committee is dressed in green with green t-shirts, so you should be able to recognize us. If you are dressed in green, I think I see a few of you dressed in green and you are not part of the organization committee, I suggest you get changed fast before you are harassed by questions. To finish, I would like to thank our sponsors, without which we would not be here. So thank you to them, especially the gold sponsors, Immersive Factory, Numix, and Open University. F4, please, F4. Thank you. Before we get started with the first keynote, I just wanted to give you a few attendee tips. First of all, use a headset. It's much better for our sound experience, and turn your microphone off when you're not speaking. This is very important. Second of all, be nice and constructive in the comments that you give people. You can write comments and questions in the public chat on the bottom left. I have to remind you that you are being filmed and broadcast live on YouTube. If you do not want your names that are above your avatars to appear in those videos, you can change them. Just ask one of the organization team. Just explore the world, because it's a beautiful world. So just go around, explore it, and meet new people. Tweet with the hashtag GalaConf 2020 and enjoy the conference. So I finished my speech. Thank you. I finished my speech. I will now let Anna COX put her slides on. I will take my video. Perfect. Anna, do you need any help to set up your slides?
I'm just hoping that I can. Oh, that looks like that's working.
Great. Do you want to show your face on the webcam, with the webcam, or not?
I'm going to try and do that.
Okay, then just go up to the left. Perfect.
There we go.
Excellent. Great. Thank you so much. I'll go sit down in the public.
Oh, hang on. Okay. I think I have everything where I need it now. Okay. So first of all, I just want to say thank you very much for having me. It's really exciting to be here, and this is, I suppose, this is my first real virtual conference experience like this. I think this world looks amazing, and it's really great to have a go at doing this presentation within this environment. So I want to talk to you about games for academic life, and I feel like maybe I should put the word academic in the title in brackets, because I think my message generalizes beyond academic life, but I've kind of framed it that way, given that that's largely the environment in which I've gathered most of this data that I'm going to talk to you about. So academic life seems to be increasingly shaped by metrics that measure how happy we've made our students, how many papers we've published, how many people have cited those papers, and how much money we've generated to support our research. And as a result, we seem to appear on a number of leaderboards that have these kind of metrics displayed on them. And the pressure that comes from being placed on these leaderboards has contributed to the high rates of mental ill health and suicide amongst academics that we've seen appear, be mentioned in our popular press increasingly over the past few years. And of course, this year, arguably, things have got even worse. So with the pandemic, we have seen many academics have to adapt to new ways of doing their jobs. For many, they had to pivot overnight to delivering remote teaching. They had to change their assessments to deal with the fact that in-person exams couldn't be held. Some have had to find new ways to do their research. Others have been stalled with no way to continue actually to gather their data without the possibility of either travel to the site where they might normally do their research or actually go into their university lab. So in this talk, I want to talk to you about 3 strands of my research that show how some of the particular struggles that people have experienced in switching to remote work over the past 9 months, and also outline how I think we can use games for the serious purposes of helping ourselves and our students create strong working relationships and to cope with work-related stress. So in addition to conducting research on game experience and how those experiences impact people, I've long been interested in understanding how people use technology to get their work done, and also the role of those mobile technologies in blurring or creating boundaries between work and home. So back in March, when countries around the world implemented various different social distancing regulations that required their citizens to stay at home and, if they could, work at home, I realised that there was an amazing opportunity for me to research how people adapted to that situation, but also an opportunity to help them. So together with Sandy Gould from the University of Birmingham, Anna Rudnicka and Dave Cook from UCL, and Joe Newbold and Marta Cecchinato from Northumbria University, we created a website called eWorkLife that provides advice on how to use your technology to implement digital self-regulation strategies that can help remote workers both to get their work done when they're working and also disengage from work at the end of the day to enable them to recover from work stress. We advertise this on social media and also via some work-based mailing lists. And the website basically includes information about the scientific evidence that supports these different strategies and guides people through how to implement them to help them transition, I guess, into remote work. And we made this advice free to anyone who wanted to access it. But we linked it at the same time to a citizen science project. So in return for people assisting us by completing a questionnaire about their experience of working from home, we provided guidance as to which of these strategies that we listed on the website were likely to be of most use to them. And between the 20th of April and the 20th of May, we received responses from about 350 people, including many academics. And they told us about the challenges that they faced. And these fell into 3 different themes. So they had trouble setting up their workspace at home. They had trouble connecting with their colleagues, and they also had trouble just getting their work done. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of these 3. So first of all, getting their workspace set up. Many people had problems with this. Unsurprisingly, not everyone has a home office space at home, somewhere they can dedicate to getting their work done. And for those who did, they certainly hadn't expected to have a separate home office space for each member of their household. Some people struggled living in a small space. So one of our participants said, I live in a single room with my partner. We both need to have phone calls for work. And I'm doing a lot of writing at the moment. Doing these things at the same time is really hard. And one particular difficulty was having to use the same space for both work and relaxation. So a participant told us, Monday mornings are very difficult because I spend Sunday relaxing there and then I return to the same location on Monday and I have to change my mentality to work thinking. In terms of connecting to others, people felt simultaneously as though they spent too much time on Zoom connecting with others and too little time properly connecting with others. When they'd spent most of their day on Zoom in meetings, they couldn't face spending yet more time in the evenings trying to have a casual chat with someone. People found the video meetings difficult, so the absence of body language cues make it difficult to read people or to know when to speak, which leads to people speaking over each other. And also presenting in a virtual world like this also has some kind of weirdness to it in that I can't see any of the audience. So we lose all of these cues that we're used to understand how people are understanding our message. So the increase in remote meetings that people had to engage in was also something that they complained about. So one of our participants said that they often felt zoomed out. So at the end of the day of multiple Zoom calls, couldn't be bothered to engage with friends via a social Zoom call. But in addition to this kind of overload of interaction in this way, people missed having different type of interaction. They missed the water cooler chats, opportunities to go for lunch with their colleagues, to have the chance to catch up over a beer at the end of the day. And this loss of ad hoc communication made it difficult to get work done. Because as well as removing valuable social interaction with colleagues, people had ordinarily used these opportunities to coordinate activities, but also to build bonds, to build relationships with their colleagues. Or someone's got their microphone on. So some participants also told us how they felt lonely. They really missed this daily interaction with their colleagues. And others told us how the difficulties of socializing over the internet were just something that they couldn't really cope with anymore. So they commented that having an informal chat now takes a lot of organizing. It wasn't something that they really wanted to engage with on top of everything else they were dealing with. These kinds of informal conversations are really important in a work context because they're one of the key ways in which we build good, trusting relationships with each other that lead us to working well in a team. The third problem was that of just actually getting their work done. So being at home for work and in a home where there's potentially lots of other people there too, meant that people had to deal with additional new distractions that they weren't used to having to deal with whilst trying to get their work done. So this included noise from neighbours, interruptions from delivery drivers. Several participants found it hard to ignore home-related responsibilities such as chores, and found it really easy to kind of divert their activity to other home-based activities. As one participant explained to us, it's harder not to be distracted at home during the working day when doing essential but less engrossing tasks. So it's easy to snack or to watch a video or similar before getting back to work. And they noted that this was something that they didn't really experience this in the same way when they were in the office. One of our participants says it's difficult to sit here and focus for a long period of time without getting up and wandering around, which is not so easy in the office. So there's something about the office environment that often provides us with a social context that supports us in getting our work done, in focusing on our work. But for many of these people who are trying to work at home, caring for children was both the most common distraction as well as really the most taxing added responsibility. Whilst many participants without caring responsibilities commented on how they'd reflected on their work-life balance during this period, parents rarely did so because they were always working. They're either fulfilling their professional responsibilities of trying to get their work done, or they're doing a different type of work and caring for their children. And they told us about how they felt that the schools were putting additional pressure on them to help the children to finish their work, whereas they felt that they just wanted to support their children who were understandably slightly traumatized by the whole situation. And the parents just wanted to be able to be parents in that situation. And I think one of the particularly difficult things that came up around this issue was the fact that, particularly with younger children, they didn't understand why parents had to work. They weren't used to their parents having to do that in the home environment. And so they might hear a parent might hear a child asking for them and then find it really difficult to concentrate on their work. So in addition to all of these environmental distractions, they're obviously also distracted by the larger situation that we've all found ourselves in. And people reported spending lots of time watching the news and reading up on the news and trying to understand what was happening with the pandemic. So these distractions and interruptions led to extended working days. So when your day is interrupted by all sorts of different things to get the same amount of work done, you just have to kind of extend that work into the evening. And this led to feelings of never really being able to get away from work. There was always more work to be done. People always felt that they weren't being as productive as normal, so there was an extra backlog of things. And they found it really difficult, therefore, to properly relax. And of course, these feelings of increased stress and exhaustion make it even more difficult to get work done. So they found themselves in this vicious circle of always being at work and not really having the opportunity to properly recover. So I think that playing games offers a solution to 2 out of 3 of these problems that we're all facing. So when colleagues and our students are facing difficulties with connecting to others remotely, I think games can help us to create teams who trust each other and cooperate effectively. And when we're feeling like we're not getting anywhere with our work because we're exhausted, games offer us a real opportunity to disconnect from work and recover from work-related stress. So in the rest of this talk, I'm going to describe some of the studies we've done that provide evidence for these claims. So I'm going to tell you about 2 pieces of work that I've done using games to create connections between people in a work context. The first is work that was done with Emily Collins and Frank Lee using the game Flashbulb. And you can see a little example of what that game looks like in the top right-hand part of the image on the slide. So this game is quite a simple icebreaker, and it was designed to help people at academic conferences to network with people who they didn't know. The networking is a really important but often extremely stressful part of academic life. Not all of us are extroverts and feel very confident walking up to people who we don't know. And so using things like icebreakers can really help people to make that initial connection. Now, the majority of examples of existing networking games require players to interact with each other as part of the game. So they don't actually bypass this stressful part of networking. If anything, they actually force you to engage in it. But in contrast, actually, many other games successfully encourage interaction between players whilst avoiding causing that kind of stress. So it's in many games, the kind of social interaction side is something that's an optional extra and not something that is kind of like a core part of the game necessarily, or something that we're forced into doing. So I can see my name coming up in a chat. It's distracted me. With this game, what you have to do is you set up your account in there, and you take a selfie and you upload that into the game. And and then other players will get given you as a target. And when you receive a target, the idea is that you wander around this conference and you try and find the person who's the target, and you take a photo of them. And if you take a photo, then there's a matching process. And as long as you've taken a photo of the right person, you can progress in the game. But the thing that's unusual, I suppose, in this game, in terms of it being a networking game, is that it doesn't force you to talk to those people, but it does give you an excuse to go and talk to people. So players can choose whether they want to go and start a conversation with their target or not. So we deployed this game in 2 different situations. One at an academic conference, that was at the Play conference, and we also used it with in an induction session at the start of the academic year with our students at UCL. And we interviewed players afterwards, and in the analysis of those interviews, we identified some interesting themes. So we found that despite the fact that it didn't force people to go and talk to others, that it did actually successfully encourage this and enable this and widen the scope of the people that that the academics might otherwise interact with. People tended to use it as an excuse. So if it was someone who they felt comfortable within the context of the game to go and talk to, they might go and initially ask if they could have permission to take their photograph. But if they didn't feel comfortable doing that, then they could just kind of stay out of that. People really commented on how part of the game's success was because it fitted really well with both the physical co-location of the event in which we deployed it, the group of people who we were using, and the schedule. So we had a particular time in which the game was being played. But of course, this kind of game isn't going to help us cope with remote working because it really relies on people being physically co-located. So we also know that when we're trying to build the kind of good working relationships, building teams with people, we need to do more than just know people at a superficial level. So we need to do more than just break the ice with them. We need to find ways to really create stronger bonds where we can really develop cooperative relationships. So given the challenges that we're facing right now, we need to think about ways in which we can really try to develop those. Now it's gone too far. Okay, so this is work that was conducted with Evelyn Tan, which we presented at Kai Play last year. And we were interested to see whether we could use games to help teams build these kind of trusted relationships. We were particularly interested in like the remote work context. So we know, of course, that in many leisure contexts, people do really develop quite strong social bonds with other people, and that this often develops over quite extended periods of time. So one of the things we were really interested in was to see whether just playing for a relatively short amount of time might help people to create these kinds of connections with people. And although several studies had already begun to explore ideas around this, they tended to measure people's willingness to be vulnerable or to connect with other people, rather than actually looking to see whether we could find evidence of this playing out in people's behaviour. So in this study, we created virtual teams of strangers, and we had them interact with each other over a video call using Google Hangouts. And in teams of 4, they either played an icebreaker activity, or they played Space Team. So Space Team is a multiplayer cooperative mobile game in which players are assigned a random control panel, which is of a spaceship. And so you each have a part of the overall control panel, and it has buttons and switches and sliders and so on it. And players have to coordinate their actions with each other in order to complete the game. And players receive certain instructions, but the instructions they receive may or may not relate to their own panel. So you might receive an instruction which you can then respond to on your work panel, but it's quite likely you receive an instruction where you don't have the control for that, and you therefore need to convey it to other people. So this kind of situation leads to all sorts of hilarious behaviour, where you end up shouting something like "grease the pro rod" to other people, and the noise builds up quite quickly. So of course you need to also be listening to other people in order to respond to the instructions that they might be shouting. So whilst when playing this kind of game, it might take a few moments before people feel comfortable yelling at one another in this way, game has really clear, shared, independent goals that creates this kind of context of risk and uncertainty, but necessitates this interaction, this careful interaction and coordination with players. So we thought this might be exactly the kind of game in which sort of bonds we were looking to create might be able to be formed. So in our study, after either playing this game or taking part in a traditional icebreaker activity, we had teams take part in a game of Day Trader. And this is a type of prisoner's dilemma game where there's a conflict between the individual's best interest and that of the group. And we found that the teams who had played Space Team cooperated in Day Trader more effectively and were more successful in that kind of game. So it seems that playing these kinds of games might enable us to develop these kinds of trusted bonds with teammates that can really lead to the formation of solid online teams who can work together more effectively. And interestingly, we can see that the impact of this happening really quite quickly in our study. So I now want to just address the second problem that I highlighted, that of getting things done at work. And really, part of the difficulty in being able to be productive is that we need to bring our best selves, and that has to be someone who is well rested, who's recovered from the stresses and strains of their previous workday, and are now in a position to put their energy into the new task that they're undertaking today. So to recover from acute stress, we need to engage in activities that do 4 things. They have to help us to psychologically detach, so to put work aside and not think about it anymore. They have to help us to relax, bring down our levels of arousal to a healthy level. We have to experience mastery over challenges that are put to us, and we also have to feel in control over our environment. Now, many leisure activities help us to achieve some of these things. For example, reading books and watching movies can help you detach and relax. But games can help you do all 4 of these things. Their interactive and engaging nature is particularly effective in helping us to detach and relax. And they also provide us with this opportunity to experience mastery and feel in control of our environment. So this is work that was done with Emily Collins, who is now a lecturer at Cardiff University. And we were interested to discover whether some types of games might be better for supporting recovery than others. We surveyed nearly 500 participants to investigate how much time they spent playing games, which kinds of games they played, and we took measures of their recovery from work stress. So we used questionnaire-based measures to look at that. We found that the total number of hours that were spent playing digital games per week was positively correlated with overall recovery. So the more that people played games, the better recovered they seemed to be. But the strength of these relationships varied with the types of games they tended to play, with first-person shooters and action games being the most highly correlated. So the fact that not all types of games had the same kind of impact suggests that some game characteristics might be more important in this kind of relationship. For example, when we just looked at the gamers who told us that they developed online relationships with other gamers, we saw that this kind of online social support mediated the relationship between the digital game use and the recovery. So that's perhaps another thumbs up for games like Space Team. But this study relied on self-report, was only correlational. So we couldn't really be sure from this that these games would really lead to this type of effect. So to address this, we conducted a series of experiments. The first one was a lab-based experiment in which participants we created a need for recovery by giving them a work task, and then we had them do one of 3 interventions. So either they played a puzzle game, or they engaged with a mindfulness app, or they played with a fidget spinner. And the results showed that in the game condition, we saw increases on measures that were indicative of improved recovery when we compared it to the others. So that was looking promising, but it's one thing to do something in a lab and quite another often when you try to deploy it in the real world as an intervention. So we then did a separate study, which was a field study, where we had working professionals either play a digital game at the end of each day, or engage in a mindfulness app when they arrived home. And they did this for 5 days in a week. And for those who were in the digital game playing condition, their daily recovery experience increased during the course of the study, whereas for those in the mindfulness condition, it decreased. And we did interviews with our participants afterwards, and those who were in the game condition told us about how the game really created an opportunity to detach from work and to stop thinking about it. So it was a really good way of distracting themselves from thinking about work. And for some of them, not only did it help them to feel more relaxed, but it actually even restored their energy levels. They told us about how there were daily differences in these sorts of experiences, and they found it particularly beneficial if they'd had a very busy or a stressful day. And the third theme was about the routine and scheduling of playing every day. So having this activity bookend the day to help them transition out of work mode and into home mode, particularly beneficial for kind of creating and maintaining this idea of a work-life boundary. So the idea that I've stopped work, I'm doing this transition activity, and after this, I don't go back to doing my work. And this idea is something that's come up in our investigations of people working at home during the pandemic too. So finding a way of ending the workday and sort of powering down from that can be particularly difficult. So it seems that actually playing a game as a part of an end of workday routine might be really useful. And I think during a time when often the only thing that is between our work space or our work and our home space might be the matter of getting up from one chair and moving to another, these kinds of daily practices might be really helpful. So to conclude, I want to argue that as a way to survive and even perhaps to thrive in academic life, we need to play more games. Playing games with our colleagues can really help us to strengthen our relationships with them. If we're responsible for welcoming new members of staff to teams, then we can use games as part of these kind of ice-breaking onboarding practices. Use games like Space Team to help to build really good relationships with them that help them integrate into the team well. If you're an academic, then you might consider building the playing of games into your courses with your students. For example, if your students might need to work in a team and you're going to use some kind of breakout room for doing that, you might have an opportunity where you're going to introduce the students to using that technology, and you want to give them something to do in that breakout room. Well, perhaps you could get them to play a game like Space Team, because then, as well as understanding how that technology is working, they have the opportunity to have a bit of fun and to begin to develop those initial team working relationships with each other. And as we come up to the holiday season, play games with your friends and family. It's a great way to disconnect and relax and recover from work, and provides us with a fun way for strengthening those relationships too. Thanks very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Anna. If anyone has any questions for Anna, I see that I have one here. If you could put it in the chat.
Wait, maybe just before the questions, could you please all applaud? Just press F4, please. This was a great speech. Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, too. Perhaps I should also go to this. I lost myself.
Where are you, Janneke? Yes, come up on stage. That will be better. That way we can see you. Thank you.
So I have some questions, but so I'll start with that first. It's from Stephanie Schürrle. First of all, it was very interesting to hear, Anna, so thanks a lot. Stephanie Schürrle, she's asking, how's the experience with older people who are not so used to computer games? Do they get frustrated with playing these games, or does it work as for young people anyways?
Okay, so I think we can sometimes make the mistake of thinking that all older people are the same. And we can characterize older people as not being very technologically literate, but actually many of them are. Like, many of them have their own devices. They have smartphones and tablet computers, and actually might be really willing to interact with people through a game. They I think games are the kind of thing that really bring people together. And traditionally, we've used things like board games to strengthen the relationships within families. So we have older people playing with their grandchildren, for example. And many of these board games have been digitized. So, of course, you can play Scrabble online, you can play chess online, you can play Monopoly online. There's all sorts of kind of like the old traditional games that many of us grew up with, which we can use as a way to introduce older people to playing online, I think.
Thank you. Stephanie actually has a follow-up question, and she's asking because she was not so precise, so she meant actually people who's not used to playing game. But she's asking how much time you should plan actually to get people to get used to it.
Get used to playing a game online?
Yes. Or in the new environment, like now we're in the world.
Well, I think, you know, that's one of those questions where I'm able to just say, well, it depends, right? There are, of course, some games where it takes a long time to really become proficient, and where if we were taking any novice user, we would expect them to perhaps to have to invest quite a period of time before they would be able to even play. But I think a lot of the games we're familiar with, the games that are on mobile devices, a lots of the kind of casual play games are really very accessible to a wide number of people, and are probably one of the easiest ways to introduce people to playing online.
And the Space Team game, as you mentioned, how long would that take?
So it's the kind of game where you can pick up and play very quickly. I haven't tried it with a group of older users, or with people who aren't used to using technology. But certainly it's the kind of thing where we didn't have to train our participants to in how to play the game. It's the kind of thing you can pick up very quickly. And when I've seen my children play it with their friends, it's the kind of thing that as soon as it's introduced, they can play really well.
Good, thank you. Let me see if I have any more questions from the audience. It doesn't look like that so far, but I have one. You said that it's good, of course, for ice breaking, to using that for new colleagues. Now we get a lot, since a lot of us been in home office for a long time, and we're getting a lot of new colleagues in. How is your experience with playing a game together with new people, not knowing anyone else, and those being playing together for or working together for 5-10 years?
Well, I think there are lots of situations where we might play we engage in these sorts of fun activities. So things like quizzes, like if we have a broad definition of games and we think of that as part of like a, you know, one kind of example, that's the kind of thing that I think we often do with our work colleagues, that we might have a end of year quiz or something. And I think those are, depending on the way those are set up, those can sometimes also provide a really rich opportunity for strengthening those connections, because they provide a different way of interacting with people, and a way of an opportunity to be in a team with someone who you might not ordinarily work very closely with, but is perhaps in your organization or in your department. I think it would be really interesting to look at how we might be able to build playing games into an onboarding process that perhaps a human resources department might be creating for their staff. So people have had to really adapt their ways of working, obviously, over the last 9 months, and think about how, when we recruit new staff, how do we make them feel part of the organization, part of the team? And typically we do that by giving them lots of training, and those things are not always huge amounts of fun. And introducing fun activities, I think, could be a really helpful way of getting these bonds that are so important, and that we're kind of missing out on those opportunities because we don't get to bump into each other on the corridor.
Thank you. I have got two new questions here. It's from Liam. He's asking, the Space Team is a great icebreaker game, but do you have any experience including this style of icebreaker games to people who's very game skeptics, or do not or don't take games seriously at all?
Well, I think the thing is that they don't have to take games seriously. They don't have to, I think, to get these benefits. This is what we've seen in our study, that our participants weren't aware that they were having this intervention in order to try to change their behavior. So I think it's the kind of thing where you could dress it up as you know, oh, we're just going to do an ice-breaking activity, and they don't need to take it very seriously themselves in order to really get those benefits out of it. I think people are perhaps open to the idea of doing icebreakers. They might think playing Space Team is a bit of a strange icebreaker. But, you know, if we were going to choose amongst a range of ice-breaking games, then this is the kind of game that I think we might want to recommend to people.
Thank you. We also have some more question here, and we don't have that much time.
Just one more question.
Yes. So we have one good here because it leads to a very interesting topic. In your experience, Anna, how is it the use of games in the context of being economical? Yeah, like development time and installation time. How's that in for the training costs?
Well, I suppose, you know, in contrast to many of the people who are here at the conference today, who are interested in developing their own games, the kinds of games that we've been using. So when we're using Space Team, these are commercial off-the-shelf games, and in our paper we describe how you might go about selecting one of those games in order to pick one that might work in this kind of context. So I think that if you aren't in a position to be able to develop your own game, there are ways of going about choosing one that already exists that might work for you. But we can use those same requirements to really drive game design, to think about what are the key components that we would need to put into a game if it was to produce this kind of effect. And then the key thing really would, if we were designing a bespoke game, is to think about, well, what are the added things that we might want to do that are specific for the context in which we are wanting to deploy it. So I guess perhaps you might think about opportunities the way that you have in your treasure hunt later on, to think about how you might embed information about the organization, for example, into that kind of game. So I think you can take these key ideas about what we think are the effective components in these sorts of games, and then think about how they might drive the design of other games that could be used in different contexts.
Thank you very much. There are some more questions in the chat, so if you could have a look on that later, Anna, that would be great.
Yeah, I will do.
And I'll come back to you later using the old-fashioned emails. So
okay.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, thanks again, Anna. If maybe the audience, some of you said that they couldn't clap, maybe you could stand up and clap, F4 to clap. And you can also do a dance if you want, you know, just get up and move your bodies while we set up the next conference. Well, the next paper session, Riccardo Berta is going to come up on scene. So if you want to dance, just click on your name and do a dance move. And if you want to do a backflip like I did before, you can do /flip, write /flip in the public chat. Let me see your flips, please. And thank you so much, Anna, for that very interesting speech. It is recorded and will be broadcast on YouTube, and you'll be able to see it on YouTube again during the year. It is on the Serious Game Society YouTube channel.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. Ricardo, I'll let you present the next session.
Okay. Welcome everybody. Thank you, Isa, and also all the organizers for this really impressive experience of a virtual conference. This is my first one. My name is Riccardo Berta from University of Genova, and we are starting the first session, which is about gamification theory. And we have 4 talks in this section, and if you have questions during the talk, please write down on the chat so I can pose the question at the end to the presenter. So we can start with the first paper. I ask the presenter, Bo Kapman Walter from University of Southern Denmark. And the paper is about gamification and beyond, the case of ludification. So there is here, oh, sorry.
Bo, normally you know how to put your slides up?
Yeah, hi. Hi, this is Bo Kampen Walter. I'm just having a bit of trouble uploading my slides.
Okay, just click on
finding them actually.
You should, normally they're on the tab. You've saved them, right? There they are.
I think they're here, yeah.
Please turn off your microphones when you're not talking. Thank you, that looks good.
Okay. Hi there. This is Bo Kampen Walter and Lasse Juhl Larsen from Institute of Cultural Sciences at the University of Southern Denmark. And first of all, I think we would like to give a big applause to the organizers of the conference, or should we say, rather this gamified online event. What a treat. Today, very compressed 10 minutes, we want to talk about ludification and what we call ludo interpretation. Now, ludification is a term that embraces all of the cool stuff about gamification. Incentives, reward, motivation, feedback loops, game mechanics, those kind of stuff. But in addition, with a uniquely important element as well, storytelling. We believe this to be increasingly important in a culture not just of digital natives and hybrid constructions of stories across media, but also in the comprehensive analysis of media narratives that borrow heavily from computer games. Which is to say, both horizontally, how linear storytelling progresses influenced by games, and vertically in layering game elements inside stories. And hence the term ludo interpretation, of which Lasse and I's current work centers. Also, we hope and strongly encourage the development of ludification and the deep understanding of it to catalyze new and exciting ways of doing didactics. And of course, fun learning with and around ludification in the classroom. That being said, my colleague Lasse will provide you with some cool examples of ludification and how to interpret them. Take it away, Lasse.
Lasse, we can't hear you. It doesn't seem to work. I guess, Bo, you'll have to do that part of the presentation too.
Okay, but you can hear me, all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I hope on the screen there's a slide called the Ludo Interpretation of Gameful Movies and Television Series. And as I just said, we're in the midst of doing Ludo interpretation, which is to say finding stuff that games are made up in order to analyze and understand the kind of stories that we have today. Traditional linear cinematic storytelling inspired by computer games. And here are a couple of examples of that. These are typical elements and aspects from computer games, such as the power-up, the puzzle, the level design, and the quest. And as I said, it kind of corresponds both to the horizontal level and the vertical level of storytelling. For instance, in a cool new movie on Netflix that you can watch, you see the game element of the power-up, which is really prevalent in I guess, action games at least. And here it is provided in a film. And also, this is almost like an archetypical example of this, the German Run, Lola Run or Lola Rent, where the effects and sort of psychology of bifurcation point, the fact that you can, or you desire to go back in time and try once more. Also, you can see level design prevalent from Star Wars in a number of movies and so on. And a simple case in point that would be The Mandalorian, which actually also uses games and level design in the production phase of coming up with a new movie. There's an example from the movie with Tom Cruise, Edge of Tomorrow, almost like it merges with StarCraft 2. You have elements of respawn, rash resources, limited information, learning, asymmetry, and of course the infamous artificial intelligence. So actually, before we come to the questions, let me just rephrase and say that we believe that ludification might be the next step, not just in gamification per se, but the next step in understanding complex media stories, complex contemporary media studies that usually today go across media and borrow heavily from computer games, as we said, horizontally, the way they progress, and also the way that they're built, talking about a kind of ludified architecture of storytelling, putting layers together. And of course, we hope to see that this will become perhaps the next step in pedagogics and didactics, with students telling interesting stories and also giving them means to analyze the kind of stories that they see in their contemporary leisure culture. So if you have any questions, we would love to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bo. Any questions for the audience? Someone is typing. Okay, anyway, I have just a quick question. This mixture between game elements and media productions is really interesting. Thank you for your presentation. This seems to me an opposite way. In the past, we had the integration of storytelling elements inside games, and now, as your presentation shows, we have game elements that comes inside the media production. Do you think that we will see in the future more game elements in media production or not? And do you have any idea of the future of the media production in that field?
Thank you very much. That's a good question, and obviously, neither Lasso and I are prophets in that way. But I think, to put it quite brutally, if this was only a question of production facilities using engines and stuff from the game business, it wouldn't be necessarily sort of a philosophical inquiry into this. I think what is predominantly cool about this is that we need a kind of toolbox to open up the kind of more traditional linear cinematic stories that aren't, ontologically speaking, computer games per se, but which behave like games, which are influenced by games, and therefore cannot really be up for grasp if you don't know what games are all about. This is for us the most cool and entertaining stuff. Thinking about stories that aren't really games, but then again, epistemologically speaking, have the look and feel of games.
Okay, thank you for your answers. Other questions from the audience? Just to check the chat. No? Okay, thanks again for your presentation.
You're welcome. Have a nice day.
Okay, now we can go for the second presentation, which is about the empirical investigation of the gamified learning theory. The presenter is Nadia Zarik from Aachen University in Germany. So I ask Nadia to start the presentation.
And just as a reminder, this is one of the nominees for the best student paper.
Yes, right. Thank
Hello,
you, Isa.
Hello, everyone. Can I first get a confirmation that you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so should I share the screen on the left? Okay.
It is very much echoing.
Okay, so let me just go here. Okay, so I think everything is almost set up.
Yes, it looks good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, so today I'm going to present our paper on the empirical investigation of the gamified learning theory. So, of course, as we all know, gamification refers to the usage of game elements in non-game context. In education, gamification aims to increase learning and learning outcomes such as engagement, motivation, participation, and so on. However, according to the Landers who invented the gamified learning theory, gamification does not affect these learning outcomes directly, but it's rather used to stimulate a learning-related behavior. What this means is that in order for gamification to achieve its final goal, for example, increase engagement or motivation, it should affect the corresponding learning-related behavior, which should in return affect the targeted outcomes. And this third or middle variable you can see on the screen is called the moderator. So by definition, moderators in gamification are psychological constructs that affect how gamification intervention work across different people. In education, learners' learning tendencies are considered as the moderators of the relationship between the instructional design and the learning outcomes. By definition, learning tendencies refer to cognitive and psychological indicators of how learners interact with learning environment. Finally, according to the Felder and Silverman model, there are 4 dimensions of learning tendencies: processing, perception, understanding, and input. Today, we're going to talk about the perception. So, perception dimensions describe how students tend to perceive information, be in a sensing or in an intuitive way. Perception defines whether students will have strengths or weaknesses to the theoretical or practical knowledge. For example, students with intuitive tendencies present theoretical knowledge. They like innovations and challenges, and they avoid repetitions. On the other side, completely opposite, are sensing students who tend to solve problems in a well-known way. They like standard methods and like facts. So imagine this situation that we have a student with sensing learning tendencies in a computer science course, and he's confronted with a lot of different learning activities and materials. According to the learning tendency theories, these sensing students will seek for the materials and tasks that are more likely to him, which are in this case practical assignments. Think now about gamification, and if we want to use gamification to engage students with theoretical assignments and theoretical materials, we would need to use gamification in such a way to tackle the intuitive learning behavior, which will in return encourage students to do these theoretical assignments, tasks, and similar. So more or less, this is exactly what we did in the, I'm sorry, I have this black screen on the presentation. I hope you can see it. I will try to refresh it.
We have black also.
Yes, so just a moment, the presentation left to, okay, I'm sorry for this. So where I was at, so this experiment is exactly what we did in our study. Namely, first, what we did is we created an online JavaScript course for the Bachelor Computer Science students at the RWTH Aachen. Then for this course, we created 3 groups. One group was control, meaning no game elements, while the 2 other groups were gamified. The first group was gamified with the usage of points, badges, and leaderboards, while the second group was gamified with the usage of trading and collecting game elements. We wanted to implement these game elements to trigger intuitive behavior and hopefully increase academic participation, engagement, and gameful experience in the course. So, went back, I'm sorry. So, in order to encourage students to try new solutions and be more intuitive, in the treatment 1 group, students could collect puzzle pieces, while in second treatment group, students...
Sorry, but the screen is black, already black.
Okay, I will refresh it and it hopefully will come back. Do you see it now?
No.
Yes, it's
black.
Yeah, it depends on the people. Unfortunately,
okay.
that's a known issue. So if you want, you can just go see the slides on the YouTube channel.
It's not for all. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Or they're also on the detailed program. Go ahead, Nadia, continue.
Okay, it now went back to the first screen. I don't know why. So I will have, I think it's freeze now. Can you confirm what you are seeing on the screen?
No, it's okay. On what page were you?
Well, on my presentation tool, I'm on page 3.
3?
Yes, now 4. Yes, okay.
So I will try to go back where I left, but it's freezing, so I'm sorry for this. Tested a few times and I do have a good internet connection, so I wasn't expecting this. So currently I'm freezed at the slide number 4.
Okay, I can move it if you want. Which page are you?
I think it should be slide number 7, I think.
No problem. What number are we on? I can't see it.
We are on 4.
5, 6.
5, 6.
Oh dear. It is acting strangely.
Yep.
Okay, maybe you can charge it again. Now we're on the page where it says scenario. That's 5, I think.
Yes.
6.
Are you moving it or I should do it? Just
Well, if you can, that would be better. But now we're on 6 and oh, we
Yeah.
jumped to 22.
Yeah, I don't know why. No, maybe we should just, so do you see the method screen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I will go and try to put the next slide. And nothing. I maybe try to share my screen and do it with PowerPoint.
Yes, that's a good idea. Please try that.
Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I think this could be faster. Do you see the slide number 7?
Yes.
Go
Okay.
on. It seemed to work now.
Okay, so I forgot where I stopped. So yeah, just to remind, we have 2 treatment groups, one with point badges and leaderboards and the other with trading and collecting. What we wanted is to encourage students to do like intuitive behavior and hopefully to increase academic participation, engagement, and gainful experience. So in order to encourage students to try new solutions on their own, students in treatment 1 could collect puzzle pieces and in treatment 2 could collect badges. Then to encourage students to watch the theoretical explanation and videos. For each such videos, in treatment 1, students collected coins, and in treatment 2, students collected experience points. Finally, to encourage students to explore the course and do additional exercises, in treatment 1, students could collect food ingredients for such activities, and in treatment 2, they could level up and compete on a leaderboard. Regarding our data, before the course started, of course, we collected data on their learning tendencies to see whether students have sensing or intuitive learning tendencies. Then during the course, we collected Moodle log data to collect data on academic participation. And after the course, students were given 2 surveys, student engagement survey and gamification experience survey. In the analysis phase, we gathered 69 bachelor computer science and explored 7 hypotheses. As you can see on this down picture is that we actually tested gamification direct effect on academic participation, engagement, and gainful experience, as well as the moderated role of learning tendencies on these targeted outcomes. So finally, what we found out. The analysis stage, we did 2 steps. First, we control sensing students in control group versus sensing students in the treatment group. In this step, we found out that our gamification design contributed to the academic participation of sensing students, which was our attention, but it did not contribute to the academic participation of intuitive students, which was also the thing we expected. Unfortunately, we didn't see any progress in the student engagement in the control versus treatment group. In second step, we compared only the treatment groups. First, we compared sensing versus intuitive students in each treatment group. And here is the moment when we found out that learning tendencies actually moderated gamification effect on students' engagement. Having sensing students significantly improved cognitive engagement in treatment 1 group and behavior and emotional engagement in treatment 2 group. Next, we did not find any significant improvements or moderations in students' gainful experience and academic participation. Lastly, we compared sensing students in treatment group 1 versus sensing students in treatment group 2 because we wanted to see whether one game element is better than other. And we did find out that point badges and leaderboards were significantly better in case of online engagement and gainful experience for the sensing students. Finally, we see 4 contributions of our study. First is that we introduced theoretical rationale to use learning tendencies as moderators. Second, we show that gamification can make change in a behavior if the targeted behavior can itself change, as it was in the case of intuitive students, which behavior didn't change because it wasn't targeted. Finally, we provided support for the moderated gamification learning theory, where we showed that the trading game element can increase sensing students' cognitive engagement, and PBL can increase gameful experience and behavioral engagement of sensing students. And last but not the least, our study is, as far as we know, one of the few that actually explored and compared two different game elements in one case study. So here is just a reminder slide where it should stay on the stage in case you have any questions or need to remind about what we talk today. I hope I will go now back to the Laval and stop sharing my screen, and hopefully we are still online and in touch.
Yes, we're still here.
Okay, thank you very much, Nadia, for your interesting presentation. Okay, some questions from the audience. Okay, I have a question for you. Do you think that your findings that you showed us can have a more general value? For example, if I change the topics, not from computer science, and with a different audience, do you think that your finding is quite similar or not?
Thank you for the question. This is definitely one of the few studies for the learning tendencies and gamification. So I wouldn't say that.
Sorry, I cannot hear you anymore. Hello, Nadia?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Sorry, that was my fault. I click on Nadia instead of Ricardo. Ricardo, please make sure you stop your mic when you're not talking, because otherwise we have a... Sorry, Nadia, it's my fault. I shut you up.
I saw a message like admin shut you up, and I was like, okay, I'm banned from the conference.
No, sorry. I'm so sorry. The answer was fine. It wasn't, I don't want to stop you talking.
Okay, so to finish my answer, no, definitely these results cannot be generalized. First of all, because it's an early stage study. So we only investigated sensing students, not any other learning tendency. So it is still questionable, of course. Also about the switching to some other field, not computer science, I would then reconsider using some other learning tendency model, because the one we use in our study is specifically for computer science and engineering students. So, for example, if you're doing with psychology students or some social science students, I would suggest some other models to be used in order to identify learning tendencies.
Okay, thank you. We have one more question from the audience. Are you planning on further studies with different game elements?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. If you are planning other studies, for example, changing the game elements.
Yes, there are two directions for the future work. One would be to keep the two game elements that we already use, so PBL and trading, but to target different learning tendencies, for example, active students, or for example, intuitive students, to see how these two game elements work with other. Second way to go in the future work is actually to, as the question says, to use different game elements. However, this is a long road, because there should be a whole project on which actual game elements could be suitable for this exact learning tendencies you would like to target. As we all know, there are a lot of game design patterns or game elements that should be used. So this part is not the core of our project, because we are dealing with different learning tendencies, not game elements.
Okay, thank you, Nadia, for for your answer and for your presentation. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry it lasted 15 minutes longer because of this technical.
No problem. We are in time, so thank you.
Welcome.
So we can go on, and the next presentation is about 7 P's of gamification, a strategic design tool for ideation of gamified solutions. The presenter is Elder Ferreira from University of Porto, and I would ask Elder to start the presentation. Okay, you are me, okay. Okay, so please. Sorry, I cannot hear you. I don't know if it is my problem or a general one.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I think it's okay now.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Just Nadia, maybe you could turn off your webcam, come up on the stage and turn it off, please. You just click on the screen and click again on your. That's it. Perfect. Thank you, Nadia. Helder, go ahead.
Okay. A moment, please.
Helder, that's perfect. We can see you on the screen now, but we can't see your presentation.
I can see the presentation. A moment, please. Okay.
You can put your. Okay, that works too. Perfect. We have your presentation and your webcam.
But I can see.
You're on the conclusion though. You just need to go back. Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you. It looks good. I think you can start.
But okay. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here, and congratulations for this event, for this conference. So I will start to present to make a little introduction about the 7 P's of gamification that offers a broad and comprehensive perspective of gamification based on the step-by-step process. It can contribute to a better understanding of the concept of gamification. It can help to the ideation of gamified solutions. It allows team members with limited knowledge of gamification to understand and start tools in a real case scenario. And current times call for online design process. So this method facilitates cooperative work online, allowing participants in different locations to brainstorm ideas to achieve the best gamified solutions. So this method was tested in a full online event. I have a problem with the slide. Okay. So
You've gone to the next slide, gamification on management field. Oh, you changed your screen.
So
You're on slide 3 now.
Okay. Some comments about literature review in gamification. Gamification aims to motivate and influence people to change behaviors and solve problems. For instance, there are a lot of barriers to introduce gamification in work contexts. So it's not answer. Okay. This is a lack of knowledge on gamification. Not okay.
We can see slide 7 now.
Okay. This need for adequate training on design process to legitimate gamification implementations, and this reinforced the importance of to design inspirational gamified experience. Relatively to ideation, is a case step to solve complex problems. Some of the challenges for organizations in ideation stage lie in understanding individual motivations of participants, and the diversity of members with different backgrounds contribute to the process of creating innovative proposals. So, need for arenas for ideation to support and facilitate innovation, for instance, to ideate gamified solutions is necessary. So, we developed a full online and strategic design method, considering the importance of the ideation stage to the process of creating gamified experience. It is integrated with digital tools, digital workspace, and communication platform, and follows a design process to help people with distinct backgrounds and levels of expertise on gamification to collaborate in the ideation stage of gamification process. This method is structured in 7 stages. First one, problem. Second, players, purpose, place, procedures, player experience, and program evaluation. This method is delivered in a full online and collaborative design tool. Participants must go through every step, but not necessarily in a predetermined sequence. And the collaborative screen has 2 blocks: the right side to work creatively and freely, and in the left side to present the idea to the promoter of the event. The collaborative screen has 2 blocks: the right side to work creatively, as I referred before, and in the left to present idea. So participants should check the explanations about each P on the sidebar as a learning tool. So this study adopts an exploratory approach to better understand the 7 Ps of gamification as an online strategic ideation method for gamified solutions, specifically to understand this method as a tool to the ideation of gamified solutions, to identify also keywords and suggestions to improve this method to apply in work contexts. So, to identify the importance of facilitators in the process of the ideation of gamified solutions, and also to identify what motivations or expectations are using for gamified solutions in work contexts, for instance. The case selected was the onboard a full online event. The goal of this event was to develop a gamified solution for a problem proposed, in this case, by Lisbon municipality. This Lisbon municipality presented challenge and defined its conditions, rules, and specific goals. Participated 19 university students from several backgrounds, and 4 teams used the 7 Ps of gamification method. So, as collecting and analysis of this research, the study used a mixed methods approach, combining data from online survey, direct observations, and semi-structured interviews. As results, findings reveal the incipient diffusion of gamification concept, at least in the university context of this event. Participants considered the challenge very motivating and evaluated positively. Findings also reveal some factors for this positive evaluation. These are, in fact, results that encourage the use and recommendation of this method. The proposed method is well also structured and facilitates the creative and cooperative work of teams, as well as the presentation of all gamified solutions. This in Lisbon municipality perspective. This study also reveals the importance of having the role of facilitators in the ideation stage of designing gamified solutions. Findings reveal possible caveats that can limit the use of this method. For instance, the learning curve of digital tools that is distinct for each participant, the time duration of the experience that is short, and the lack of competence. Sorry.
Oh, we just didn't hear the last sentence. Can you say it again, please?
Because I don't see I see other screen that is not mine. I don't know what happened.
It's fine. We still see the right screen. Screen 7, conclusion.
But it's not mine.
Oh. Okay. Well, that's all right. Just finish.
Okay.
Do you need help?
Yes, because I don't see the screens. Do you understand?
On which page are you?
One moment, please.
Right now we can see page 15.
And some suggestions for improvement, namely provide a digital workspace to facilitate their use, review some aspects of design, and apply this method in an analogical environment. So, some conclusions. In line with existing concerns about quality of ideas, this method looks for quality rather than quantity of gamified solutions. Results also confirms that increasing the knowledge of gamification concept facilitates the ideation of gamified solutions in short time, and the importance of facilitators emerged in this study. More training and knowledge on gamification is an effective way to promote good practice, avoid misalignments, and answering to the need of adequate training to legitimate gamification implementations. However, despite global positive evaluation, some caveats and suggestions were identified as referred before. And to finish, future work may take the ideation output of 7 P's of gamification method to the following phase of gamification process to test the effectiveness and potential of gamification solutions in work contexts. This study also envisions the 7 P's of gamification to be used in a multidisciplinary and bottom approach, and researchers also may focus on the role of middle managers as facilitators. And to finish, future research may compare different types of adoption of gamification approach, bottom-up with top-down approach in terms of process and outcomes of gamification. Thank you for your attention, and I apologize for these problems. Thank you.
It's fine. I think we got back your slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elder. Yes, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Some questions from the audience? No, we have time for just a quick questions. I have one for you. It's just a curiosity. So it is possible to use these online tools, for example, if I am interested in starting, I don't know, a project for the gamification of a university program. Can I use the tools in order to provide information about gamification to professors and also to help me in order to design the overall solution?
I don't listen to the beginning of the question.
Yes, I am asking if the online tool is available. So if I would like to design some gamification, for example, for a university course, if I can access the tools and if I can use it.
Okay, I can share with you what we did, and I can share with you. Yes.
Okay, so it's something which shared with researcher.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
so thank you again for your presentation. And we can go for the last one. The last one presentation is about motivation in gamification, defining a correlation between gamification achievements and self-determination theory. The presenter is Brunella Botte from Link Campus University in Italy. So, Brunella, you can start your presentation.
Thank you very much, Riccardo, and good morning to everyone. I think you can hear me. I'm starting my presentation. Can you see it?
Your presentation is on the left. Maybe you want to show your face on the left. It would be better if you put your presentation in the middle. Just click on the screen and then click on the tab where you saved your presentation.
Let's see if it works. Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Sorry, I go back. Okay, I did a little bit of spoiler. If it's not a problem, I won't share the camera because of possible internet issues.
That's fine. It's not a problem. We can see your slides now.
Okay, thank you very much. So good morning again, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here also this year at GaLA conference. This is Brunella Botte. I'm from DASIC, the Digital Administration and Social Innovation Center of Link Campus University in Rome. Today we'll discuss with you an analysis about motivation in gamification that foresaw the construction of a correlation between gamification achievements and self-determination theory. As all of us maybe have seen also in our everyday life, the adoption of gamified solution has increased very much recently. Here are some examples of gamified application that address very different fields of our everyday life, and as a result we had also a broader audience at which this application that is addressed by these applications, and this audience, being very broad, is also made by very different people. As we know, each of us is motivated by different things in different way, and therefore by specific game interactions. Considering that gamification is all about the support and fostering of motivation, it is important to take into account how each and every one of us is motivated. So maybe it could be useful to take a step back and look briefly at how motivation works. In synthesis, we can identify two main locus of motivation. The first one is inside us, so it is the motivation that arises from the individual, and the other one is external, meaning that we are mainly motivated by the desire to achieve an external goal. Extrinsic motivation has been studied specifically by behaviorists that related that to a stimulus-response relation, and by Skinner that introduced the concept of reinforcement. On the other hand, also intrinsic motivation was studied by scholars. White firstly introduced that the concept that behavior can be driven by innate psychological tendencies, like, for instance, in this case, specifically competence. Ryan and Desi expanded these studies and elaborated the self-determination theory. What does self-determination theory says? It says that we are driven by three main intrinsic needs, and these needs are universal and innate, and they are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Further studies that follow the self-determination theory elaboration demonstrated that video games, for instance, are very strong in supporting intrinsic motivation, and therefore autonomy, competence, and relatedness. What has been found is that when the three psychological basic needs are satisfied in video games through game mechanics and rewards, we are experiencing very motivating gamified experience. Game experience. Therefore, given that, we can suppose that the same can be true for gamification. So if we can support correctly these three basic psychological needs, we could have we could create an intrinsically motivated gamified learning experience, for instance. So about self-determination theory and video games, we can say that we can find video games so engaging, first of all, because they are perceived as fun. Of course, we can discuss for hours about what the word fun means, but anyway, we can stick to this concept right now. And the other things that we have to consider is that the engaging power of video games lies in the experience they provide, in what Csikszentmihalyi defines as the flow experience. Meaning that if we can keep the three basic needs identified in self-determination theory satisfied, we can have, as consequence, a more enjoyable and satisfying game experience. As for gamification, things are slightly different because, first of all, the choice to participate in a gamified experience is not always autonomous. While when we accept to play a video game or a game in general, as also many game definitions affirm, we freely accept to play. But when we are engaged in a gamified experience, it means that we are carrying on a usual activity in our everyday life, just with a layer of game on it. So the risk is that if not properly applied, gamification would have no impact on the on our motivation in carrying on the activity, but we still experience the activity as it would be without the gamified layer. So another point that we have to take into account is that in games we can change the kind of activities the player can experience. They can put into practice some kind of strategies, but in gamification this doesn't happen because usually the activity that we have to carry on are mandatory. We are just gamifying something that we have to do anyway. So this it can be useful to target the needs, to directly target the need satisfaction of the individual user. In video games, this usually happens also through adaptive systems. There are different ways through which games adapt to players' game styles or player activities. This almost never happens in gamification. So it would be useful to be able to identify the individual preferences of users in reference to the three basic psychological needs of self-determination theory in order to provide a more satisfying reward system that is, in the end, the only things on which we can have some kind of agency while designing a gamified system, considering that, as we saw many times before, the activity itself cannot be changed. So in this study, we, through the analysis of previous researches and through the analysis of different gamified application cases, we define this table that summarizes the relationship between the area of impact of the rewards included, the most common reward included in gamified application, the achievement type that refers to the area of impact, and the three basic psychological needs of self-determination theory. In this way, we had the chance to create a tool to examine other gamified applications in order to understand if effectively the three psychological needs are satisfied. To do so, we apply the table derived from the study to the SoloLearn case study. SoloLearn is a mobile application designed to help people learning to code. We examine the pro version of SoloLearn because the free version and the basic, that is the basic version, doesn't have gamified elements in it. This table, I don't know if you can see it very well. Anyway, you can find it in the paper. We summarize the result of this study, meaning how the reward system included in the application have impact on the 3 basic needs of the self-determination theory. Here we can explore more in detail the three psychological needs. So we start with autonomy. As a result from the analysis, emerged that the majority of the achievements included in SoloLearn can be perceived as controlling and therefore perceived as not fostering autonomy. Player has very few choices, the chance to make few choices inside the application. The main one is to choose which kind of topic to study. Also, badges, the acquisition of badges is structures and can be achieved by all users through the same sequence of activity. When exploring the meaning of the impact of game element and reward, in this case on autonomy in SoloLearn, we have to take into account that, as Ryan and others says, that there can be different reasons behind the choices to pursue a specific goal and different preferences, meaning that each of us assign a different value to the objective to be reached. In gamification and in this specific case in SoloLearn, this is not taken into account. So we have mainly an action on external and introjected extrinsic motivation, meaning that as happens also in SoloLearn, the reward system is separated, is detached from the activities we will have to carry on to progress in the learning activity in SoloLearn. Competence in general is the most supported basic need. In fact, there are, as we saw in the table, there are many rewards that have an impact on competence. But we have to say that badges that are used as feedback to acknowledge competence usually are just like milestones. So they are awarded in a controlling manner. There is no chance for the player, for instance, to put a strategy into practice and to learn in a more autonomous way. The other things that has to be noticed is that to gain a badge is not doesn't mean necessary to have acquired knowledge, because there are no measurement achievement included in the application. So it's just a matter of doing or not doing, complete or not completing a specific task, and therefore conquer a reward, points, or in this specific case, badges. There is no indication of the level of performance, nor is taken into account the number of attempts the player takes to solve the problem the system offer. So about that, a reflection has been done, meaning that maybe the same badge is given to all players who accomplish determined tasks, but is not considered, for instance, if I encountered more or less difficulty to reach that objective. So considering the different perception of the task in confront to the same kind of reward, maybe in the long period, users can be demotivated in continuing studying the subject, since they don't feel to have been rewarded in an adequate way in regard to their effort. In the end, solo learn, referring to relatedness, includes some social elements. For instance, it is possible to post code projects in order to receive comments. It is possible to discuss in an asynchronous way with other peers about the lectures, micro units topics, and this is possible to start one-on-one challenges. If you one side, the pro is that this helps people to feel related with one another, so we are part of the same community, we carry on the same task and so on. On the other hand, it is not so it can be not appreciated for people who doesn't like to interact with others. Okay, I'll be quick. So just about conclusions and future work. I was almost ending. What we should be taken into account is that this table and the conclusion we found about solo learn can be reasonably be expected to apply also to other gamified learning environment. And that maybe as a starting point to design an effective reward system, it could be useful to distinguish from boring tasks and an interesting one based on the study of the self-determination theories principles. As future work, we foresee to continue investigating the relationship between the three basic psychological needs and the efficacy of the reward system in order to understand if it is possible to design an adaptive system to make it more effective. And I have finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brunella, for your talk.
Yes, thank you very much. You were cut off a little bit at some points, but I think we managed to hear you.
Yes,
Okay.
you have time just for short questions.
In the meantime, it would be great if the next speakers of the next session could set up.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I have just a quick question for you. This correlation table seems interesting. Do you have applied also to other games or just to the one you present? And okay, if you have other experience using this table.
To be honest, I applied it as a tool for examination just to solo learn. Instead, we derived it from the study of other gamified applications. So I think it would be useful to apply it further on other products.
Okay, thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you.
This was the last presentation of this session, so we can start with the next one. And Isa, we can start with the next one. Okay.
Thank you, Ricardo Berta.
Thank you, Isa.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, Nadia, go ahead.
Okay, it's me again.
Oh, sorry. Where's the general chair? The chair of this session? It's supposed to be Remco. I sent him a message. Ah, perfect. Remco, could you come up and introduce Nadia, please?
Yeah, so welcome everybody to this second paper session on serious game analytics. We have 3 presentations in this session before the lunch. And the first presentation is on interactive gamification analytics tool, and it's given by Nadia Saric, and it's her second presentation of today, so she knows the drill. Please, Nadia, go ahead.
Thank you. So here am I again. This is my second and my last presentation for this GaLA conference. First of all, I would like to apologize for the inconvenience a few minutes ago. I would like to say that smoking is not good for your health, but it can help reduce the stress unless you get caught. So try not to get caught smoking in conference. So regarding my paper, today I want to talk about gamification analytics and the interactive gamification analytic tool that we develop at our chair. Again, I cannot move my slides.
Oh dear. That is strange. Maybe you can do like last time if you don't mind and share your screen.
Of course, I don't mind. Just give me a moment. Find it on my desktop. The one, I think. Can you see it?
No, I can't see it. Ah, yes, perfect. It's coming up.
Okay, so you see the PDF.
Yes, we see the PDF and we have, we don't see your face anymore, but that's okay.
Okay, I think
too bad.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so about gamification analytics and interactive gamification analytics tools that we developed at our chair. So first, to introduce gamification analytics, by definition, gamification analytics describe methods to monitor the success of gamification projects, to understand user gamification interaction, and to use this information to adapt gamification design. Gamification analytics is extremely important since the progress in gamification research field highly depends on gamification analytics tools. Namely, gamification analytics tool can help students understand gamification by providing them additional feedback on their game progress or gamification progress. Next, a gamification analytics tool can help teachers get insights into students' behavior in gamified learning environment. And lastly, it can help gamification designers to understand reasons of the success or the failure of their gamification projects. So being aware and inspired by the importance of gamification analytics tool, before we even started developing our own, we did a literature review on gamification analytics tools. We wanted to find out what are the available gamification analytics tools out there and what are the main challenges and needs in this field. So after retrieving more than 400 papers, we realized that there are only 4 gamification analytics tools existing in the field, and that they are, so obviously it was obvious that there is a lack of gamification analytics tools and that we should proceed in this direction. So about our tool, shortly said EJET tool. So EJET is developed as a Moodle LMS plugin. It is created to support all the participants, so teachers, gamification designers, and students. And it is divided in like 2 main blocks, so student and teacher dashboard. About the student dashboard. So student dashboard consists of 4 tabs. First is a progress tab, where students can see the summarized information about its progress. Next is the badges tab, where students can see all the badges that he has, all the available badges, as well as the percentage of the class that has already earned some badge. So some few statistics are available for the student. Next, there is a leaderboard. In the leaderboard, students can see their own ranks based on their points and levels, as well as the ranks of course, the other peers. And finally, there is a settings tab where students can control the visibility of the leaderboard. Namely, a student can choose whether he or she wants to be anonymized in the leaderboard, if he or she doesn't feel comfortable to share its name. And he can also choose whether the leaderboard would be displayed or hidden. As of the teacher dashboard or gamification dashboard, it is divided in 2 blocks. One is game element analytics, which gives the analytics about user interaction with each game element. And the second is analytics about how students interacted with their students' dashboard. So in the game element analytics, a teacher can see some metrics like points, levels, and badges distribution. They can as well see average days student needed to earn a level or to earn a badge and similar. Dashboard analytic, teacher can see each visits to each progress, to each tab, so progress, badges, leaderboard, and settings sorted by date. He or she or teacher can also see how students navigated through the tabs. Also see how what was the average time students spent in each of the tabs expressed in seconds. They can also see which leaderboard configuration students selected mostly, and finally each of these analytics can be filtered and sorted by learning tendency and of course by the date filter. So once the EJET was created, we of course wanted to evaluate it, and in this work we gave the first evaluation steps. So what we did, we applied EJET in an online JavaScript course in which 38 participants were enrolled. Then after the course, we created semi-structured interviews with 5 of the students who were in the course, and to test the teacher dashboard, we conducted semi-structured interviews with 6 teachers. From the Moodle data, we saw some interesting facts that, for example, the most visited tab was leaderboard, the least visited tab of EJET was the progress tab. We also saw the students were interacting with the gamification elements mainly during the first 10 days, and so on. From the interviews, we saw that overall students had a positive perception over the gamification and over the tool. Of course, there were recognized some design flaws like poor visibility of some links, the notification system wasn't working as we expected, and so on. What was highly noted was that there was the high interest for the leaderboard. So one of the students even stated that he would not do that much in the course if there wasn't a leaderboard to boost their competition feeling. From the teacher's perspective, teacher says that provided metrics are important but could be more detailed, so we are planning to improve this. Also, they suggested to put more visualization, more different visualization. Teachers also said that the dashboard analytics is helpful for gamification designers, but not that much if a teacher does not understand gamification very well. But the overall positive attitude towards the tool was expressed. Finally, if you're interested in seeing EJET live, you can see on the screen the link to access the EJET tool and the course, and here is the credentials you can use to see it from the student perspective and also from the teacher perspective. So I'm going back to the level to stop sharing my screen and hopefully get back to you without any problems.
Thank you. That was fine, and now we can see your face, so that's perfect for the questions.
Thank you very much. There is a question. Do you differentiate between learning analytics and gamification analytics?
Yes, of course, that's a good question. There are idea of gamification analytics and learning analytics could be the same, the umbrella could be the same, but they're completely different because learning analytics really express data on how the learning is going on, and gamification analytics track only the interaction between student or participant with the game elements. Of course, if the environment is learning environment, that is even closer to learning analytics, but gamification analytics should focus only on interactions between student and game elements.
Thank you. This was a question by Tim, and also Giel Verlangveld has a question. Did all the students like the competitive elements, or were there also negative opinions?
Well, first, thank you for the question, of course. First, we saw that in live course, only one student hid the leaderboard. So only one student didn't want to see the leaderboard at all. 42% of students wanted to be non-anonymous, and the rest, around 50%, wanted to hide their name. So in the interviews, we saw that this anonymity setting is very important. So students like leaderboards very much if there is an anonymity possibility. But if there's not the possibility to be anonymous, I think students would be annoyed with this competitive thing. So my suggestion, and what I learned from this experiment, is that there should be always a freedom to hide leaderboard, so to drop out from leaderboard, or if you want to stay, you can stay as anonymous as well. So that would be my advice for anyone planning to include a leaderboard in their courses.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe one short last question. Did you conduct a survey among the users for conducting a or for using leaderboards? Because not everybody likes that.
No, we didn't conduct surveys before. We just did the semi-structured interviews, but as also mentioned in the paper, this is an early stage evaluation, and we are actually currently running a second experiment with EJET, and hopefully we'll have some published results next year. So planning to do surveys and a lot more.
Okay, thank you very much. Always good to have something to do for next year. Thank you very much for the presentation. Let's move on to the next presentation. The title of the presentation is A Scalable Architecture for One-Stop Evaluation of Serious Games. And the presentation given is given by Ivan José Pérez Colado, and he's from the University Complutense of Madrid in Spain. So Ivan, if you're ready.
So give me a second to set up everything. So here wait for a minute.
That's not the right screen.
Yeah, wait.
You have to click on the middle screen, please.
On the
May I
serious games
interrupt you for a second, because there seems to be a problem with the audio for many of the
No, it's okay.
attendees.
It's okay now. It's okay. We're back to normal. Sorry.
Okay, so I can continue?
Yes, please.
Okay, so serious games are often evaluated with pre-post experiments in which participants fill in questionnaires both before and after playing the game. So to perform this test, they need to prepare, distribute, and score the questionnaires. They also need to link the pre and post test for each of the users. Online forums can help. Sorry, online forums can help with this task, but they are generally not designed to support this workflow. So to validate something, we are looking for improvements in pre-post scores of all the participants, and we will compare it from control group participants, allowing the learning effects to show up. So based on recent literature review, we see that a large % of the games and experiments are performed this way. So here. Interactions between the players on the serious games can also be collected and analyzed, either in real time or after the session. Several standards for reporting these interactions are currently in use. We use XAPI. We also use a specific standard for XAPI that includes serious games related terms that is named Serious Games Profile. On the other hand, we use to use GaLA in an evaluation, all the data must be linked together, and we link together everything using the same identifier as the survey. Sorry. So previously, the initial version of Simba integrated Slime Survey for surveys with Rage Analytics. That is an analytics project that came from H2020 Rage. We added there some helping tools that we included based on our own experience by managing large experiments. Using it will simplify the process of doing all the experiments by simplifying tasks, all these tasks, I mean, such as, for example, creating all the participants and adding them to the surveys and deploying the surveys. So in addition, we identify the opportunity to integrate evaluation into a game authoring tool or our own game authoring tool that is named UAdventures. So developers can easily validate their games, the games that they create. So, but still, those authors would still need to install the Simba platform to be able to enjoy all the advantages. So, to install, modules are currently distributed as a Docker container and configure to interoperate together through Docker Compose. The benefits of using Docker includes that it has cloud support, as a Docker-rated framework is easy to deploy in a cloud framework. It gave us the opportunity to use well-tested containers, including Kafka, Minio, Keycloak, and Traffic and Lime Survey. And they are encapsulated, so they are easy to maintain and to upgrade. However, bringing together all these systems does have a cost, and to this end, Simba's modules are hidden behind an application gateway that is Traffic. And we have also a single sign-on that is named Keycloak that unifies all the authorization and authentication in all the framework. So this is a figure of the Simba structure, Simba architecture, sorry. So we have all the main modules, so up as rounded boxes. We have Traffic on the bottom that redirects all the traffic that we send to Simba. We have Simba on the middle with its front end. We have Lime Survey on the right for the surveys. We have Kafka on the left that is for the traces. We have also Rage Analytics on the bottom right that is for real-time analytics. We have also Minio on the bottom that is where Kafka stores the traces by using Kafka Connect. So we have three main entry points to Simba. That is one, the web access to the front end for management. We have an XAPI statement endpoint for sending all the traces to analytics. And we have also an store results endpoint for data science for requesting all the data. Main integration efforts were related with SSO integration by creating an SAML plugin for Lime Survey and modifying Lime Survey for management from Simba. So the API supports some of the things that we needed. So what is the workflow on using Simba? How do we use Simba? So first, we download and launch the installation script. Second, we enter Simba and configure the groups, the participants who are anonymous tokens. They are anonymized for GDPR. Sorry, I don't know that compliance. We download and print the tokens and distribute them maybe manually or maybe by QR codes. We configure the study by adding the surveys and the gameplay, and we are ready to go. So after that, the participants log in. They are requested to fill in the survey, the first survey, and they can only proceed when they completed it. After that, they play the game, and then the last survey. And finally, the researcher can analyze all the unified results. So here we have a couple of screenshots of Simba. On the top, we have the process of creating a new survey in Simba using the Line Survey module. A is launching the survey module to create a new survey. B is the Line Survey creating the survey. And after that, C is showing up a drop-down menu with all the created surveys that we will select for this experiment. On the bottom, we have how researchers can create multiple test branches and assign them to participants. A is each branch that can be assigned to a different group. And B is on the bottom, we have the control group, and on the top, we have the normal gameplay, I mean. So, as the amount of data to be analyzed increases, data science tools are moving away from locally stored datasets to online ones. And to enable the use of tools intended to analyze the online datasets, we updated our Simba architecture to use an S3 compatible storage that is named Minio. It's an open source project and can be easily replaced with S3 if you want to increase the performance of your system, maybe. So this figure that we have here shows how Simba handles the trace storage, because traces are stored and they need to be accessible only for certain users. So traces are moved and reallocated from their original folders to a folder per one of the users. So they only have access to the traces that they have to analyze. So access to interaction traces is started as an external data science tools such as Jupyter Notebooks, which have plugins that support S3 storages. So we have researchers using Jupyter Notebooks or other S3 compatible data science tools can access all the traces stored in Simba by authentication against Keycloak first, and then using the return access token to fetch the data from Minio. From Simba, I mean. So to conclude, give me a second. Okay. Streamlining the evaluation of serious games can greatly reduce the efforts required to perform such evaluations. We also know that Simba simplifies the evaluation experimental settings for serious games and provide different advantages. Such as the use of XAPI standards and the EU GDPR regulation for anonymous tokens. We know also that Simba will be used to illustrate the evaluation workflow during the following semester. So here in the UCM, we're going to use it for validation and for using it with some games. And also the development of Simba is still ongoing. So in particular, we are working right now on supporting IMS LTI standard and interoperability system. So we are planning to add model support. So and this will remove two large hurdles for running experiments with serious games in LMS equipped platforms, that is managing the users with the anonymous tokens and also integrating the game results in the learning flow. And that's it. I mean, so thanks for everything. You have my contact email, and you have there the website of our group, so you can search for the code that is available there. And that's it. So if you have any questions.
Thank you. Ivan, thank you very much. Let me see if there are any questions. Maybe one first question is, how scalable is it? You know, how many users per game, how many games can be hosted, etc.
So how scalable it is? How many users first? I can tell you that we have tested it with a couple of thousand of users. Because we have validated already a game named Conectado that we developed in order to assess issues with cyberbullying and to to teach all the students about the risk and dangers of cyberbullying and for them to be prepared. So we tried it with thousands of users, but simultaneously we have only tested it with 100 users simultaneously receiving traces and processing all of them. But we were using as a simple server that is not Amazon S3 or Amazon an Amazon system deployment. So theoretically, you can deploy it there in a huge cluster of computers, and it will be completely scalable. We use Kafka for processing the traces without any issue. So if they are not, there should not be any disponibility issue regarding all the data being accessible, being processed on time. So also, you can host as many games as your computer hard drive has, and I don't know, it's completely scalable. I mean, I don't know. That solves your answer, your question. Sorry.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. In view of the time schedule, let's thank the speaker again. And let's move on to the third and last presentation in this session.
Ivan, I think there's other questions for you, but you can go look in the public chat if you want and answer them.
Oh, okay. Give me a second.
But you can answer later. You need to answer that later.
Later.
Sorry.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, let's move on to the next presentation, employing an Internet of Things framework as a generic serious game analytics engine. And the presentation is given by Luca Lazzaroni. He's of the University of Genova in Italy.
Good morning, everyone.
So ready?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
do.
you. Are you going to put are you going to use your webcam?
Yeah, sure.
As you did for the test. That looked good. Okay, I think we're all set. Perfect.
Now you should see me.
Yes, we see you and we see your slides.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. I'm Luca Lazzaroni from University of Genoa. And in this presentation, I'm going to speak about employing an IoT framework as a generic serious games analytics engine. We can think about the framework as a tool chain composed by three main nodes. There's a cloud, which is Measurify, an open source API designed for IoT devices. Then an edge computing system, Edgin, which is cross-platform and open source. And then a Unity plugin, which is a native library which can access Edgin's features. Then we will try this tool chain inside a simple game application that serves as a proof of concept. The cloud, Measurify, is an infrastructure that exposes measurements and resources through a RESTful API interfaces. Each resource is a JSON file which facilitates the exchange of data between edge and server in a compact and human-readable way. Then the edge computing system, Edgin, is a runtime system for IoT applications on edge devices, extension of Measurify. It is cross-platform, remotely configurable, easy to program, secure because each communication with the cloud is verified with a JSON Web Token, and customizable according to each device you want to use. Since the concept of engine is abstract, we can think of apply it to any device processing raw data. So we can also employ it inside a serious game with the aim of getting measurement not from real sensor, but from virtual sensors. So in order to do so, we will need a Unity plugin because we chose Unity as the target game engine. So to wrap engine and export the systems-based methods. Regarding the simple application, we can see the simple game scenario where the number of collision of the ball of a containing box are counted, and when an accumulator reaches a value multiple of 5, I don't know why, but my slides are switching themselves. The measurement is sent to misery 5 where it is stored or it can be manipulated. In order to maintain a certain flexibility, we chose to make available for the user the possibility to set the edgings method parameter. Then we can see the image of the inspector, and those parameters define the resource of the misery file. If we take a look at the C# script, in the C# script we have the start method and the update method. In the start method, there will be called the setup edging method, which performs a post on the cloud for the login credential and a get of the device description. It will be executed only at the beginning. Then the update method, which is executed cyclically, will execute also the action method, which deals with the post of the measurement of the various data coming from the field. We have to say that since update is called every frame to implement any kind of game behavior, we needed to manage the action method, since otherwise it would have blocked the continuous game update cycle. So we made use of thread objects, taking care of executing the action method, and we insert them in a queue to simplify their management. This makes possible a better resource management while not affecting the gaming experience on the user side. Then we can take a look at the cloud resource that you can see on the right. Here, the collision filter is extracted and processed by a script that only ships it to the cloud, where it is stored in the form of a JSON resource, as I said before. This example is simple, so the scripts only sends raw data, but we could also pre-process the data and send it after using prefabricated chainable operation, giving the possibility to the user of in-depth data processing. The whole process is carried out automatically by edging, allowing the developer not to deal with the aspect of edge cloud communication and storing. Then we can think about edging's field of operation among serious games. The first one could be analytics. Edging can be made available within any game scenario with any type of data. So we can think about configure it so to pre-process and then send to the cloud each desired game information. The average distance covered by virtual charter, the number of collected objects, and more. Thus giving the possibility to collect info about how the user is behaving inside the game and how he or she interacts with it. So we can deduce, for example, learning patterns, behavioral psychology, and the real effectiveness of the game. Another benefit which comes from using edging inside the serious games is the possibility to merge the two environments. So we can fuse virtual sensors and IoT sensor, since edging is able to process both of them. So for example, we can process physiological parameters of the player and at the same time data coming from the virtual world. So it is possible to understand how the users feel while playing the game and how he or she physically reacts to the events proposed by the game itself. So we can have a more complete picture about the player's attitude and the possibility to produce more realistic games which adapts also to the user's reaction. Concluding, we can sum up the framework's strengths as 4 main points. The model can be employed both in virtual reality and in the game domain. multiple environments can be merged together. There is flexibility regarding the types of data and the platforms, and the whole toolchain is open source. As future works, we are planning on enlarge the instruction set and to support facing more challenging application scenarios. Also, we are planning on employing and test the system with more complex serious games analytics. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much. Yes,
questions?
Thank the speaker. Well done. Maybe as a first question, while we wait for other questions in the chat, can you add to the conclusions which limitations did you encounter?
The limitation at the moment are, for example, in the operation that each script can produce. The operation now are there's a limited pool of operation. For example, there is division, addition, the average. So they are trainable, so we can obtain more complex ones, but they cannot process entirely the data at the moment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have a question for Luca?
Yeah.
Well, if there are no further questions, then I would like to thank all the speakers in this session. Well done for coping with the sometimes stressful technical situations. It's good to be all together in the great conference hall. And we have a lunch break now. Isa, do you want to make some announcements or not?
Yes, I just wanted to say that you can leave now and go have some real food, because virtual reality is one thing, but we still need to sustain our bodies. And thank you all for being here this morning. We had a record number of attendees this morning. At 11 o'clock, we had 138 people in this conference hall and 53 people on YouTube. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, YouTubers. And yes, bravo. F4, F4. And so I will see you at 1:30. That is exactly in 1 hour, regardless of where you are in the world. And we will start with a paper session on serious games for instruction with Antero Lindstedt, which is one of the best paper nominees. So normally the talk should be very good too. So thank you very much, and I will see you in 1 hour. And if you do have time during your dessert, for example, don't hesitate to walk around the world and go for a boat ride. Bye. See you in 1 hour.
See you later.
Hey, thanks Remco for the session chairing.